Hello, Gamecock fans. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm JP Barry. Welcome to Ball Don't Lie, SGTV's premier live sports show.
JP and I will be giving you our weekly insight every Friday.
This week on the show, the penultimate episode as we recap men's and women's March Madness, as well as NBA drama.
And later, hockey, baseball, and softball news.
Be sure to stick around for not so head-to-head pick'ems.
It's not a conventional one, but we will have a segment at the end. Stick around for it, and without further ado, welcome to Ball Don't Lie.
Welcome to the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio.
If you are a person in the Carolinas with functioning legs and a football jersey, please report to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte.
We watched Ice Bryce Young do his thing and lead the Panthers to their second win of the season.
I think Matthew McConaughey and Dabo Swinney are very similar. I feel like maybe one day McConaughey could play Dabo in a movie.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that love seeing Clemson lose.
This is just what football is about, man. Two teams that run the football, play defense.
That guy's Superman sometimes, dude. We've got to pick the Yankees, otherwise I'd be kicked out of my own family.
Yankees.
It's
But
time.
man.
Is it time?
I think it's time.
This is Ball Don't Lie.
And as of Monday night, the Florida Gators are your March Madness champions. On the men's side of things, Spencer, maybe the most storied program of the SEC of the 21st century at least, wins their first title since Billy Donovan left.
Yeah, their third title of the century again. And man, this was a really good game.
Yes, it was.
65-63. It was a nail-biter. Again, another Florida come-from-behind win. Oh, those Houston last possessions just ripped my heart out.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I had no idea what I was watching, what was happening, why it was happening. I still just refuse to believe that's how that basketball game ended. But you know, it was a great year for Florida. Florida, I thought, you know, I said it I think on the episode before the tournament. I was like, you know, if they play the way they can, I don't see how anybody can beat them. And well, nobody did. So
Nobody did, but it felt like
Houston had it.
It felt like they should have.
Yeah.
I think you got to give a huge shout out to Will Richard. I think he really kept the Gators in it in the first half. He was about the only guy that can make a jump shot, and really, he had the hot hand, and when he had the green light, man, he really was able to knock down the three ball and keep the Gators around, because Houston went up big in the first half, but Richard kept, you know, clawing at the deficit, and towards the end, it was back and forth, and again, the Gators come out on top, and the story of their tournament run was the comeback. They used it in the last three rounds, the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and the title game. So let's take a look at some of those come-from-behind wins, and really, it's weird to see a team that was so dominant all year come from behind, but, I mean, they made it look natural. They stayed cool and calm, especially under duress.
Yeah, they did, and big ups to Alex Condon, who struggled heavily in the first half, struggled heavily in the Final Four, and he just, you know, he put the team really on his back down low against the Houston defense, opened things up for Will Richard, and then Walter Clayton scored all 11 of his points in the second half. And Florida, I mean, they were just relentless. The moment they saw it go in, you started to get that kind of uneasy feeling.
And there were multiple times where, you know, Florida would go on a run and tie up the game, then Houston would go, and it was a back and forth game. It was really fun to watch. But at the end, you know, it was Walter Clayton with a great contest that forced Emmanuel Sharp not to pull the trigger on that three ball, and, you know, then he couldn't touch the ball. So it's a really heartbreaking way for Houston to lose. I mean, it really doesn't get much more heartbreaking than that. But the Cougars are going to be back. Florida's probably building something really good down in Gainesville, and it's a great end to what was an awesome year for men's basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great Final Four, great Elite Eight, great championship game. That's what happens when you don't have as many big upsets in the first couple rounds.
It was just great basketball.
It was. What wasn't great basketball was the women's title game. We all know how that went. The UConn Huskies proved too much for the Gamecocks as they picked up their 12th national title. Spencer, I mean, yeah.
They were the better team.
There's
really no doubt about it.
How was this team a 2 seed?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think the only reason is because they fell to Southern Cal, and then Southern Cal beat UCLA twice, and they were the only team to do that in the regular season. But, I mean, Paige Beckers, you felt like it was a bit destined. You know, her last year of college basketball, the projected #1 overall WNBA pick, and she goes out on top after a really historic tournament run. She was awesome, especially in the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and then she was really solid in the championship game. But it wasn't just her. Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd both put up 24 points. And JP, I don't think I'm too far off to say that Sarah Strong might be the best player in women's basketball for the next couple years.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a coronation of the next wave of great UConn players. But also it was a send-off for Paige Beckers as she won her first title. It was Gino's 12th. He's been around the way. But, you know, for our UConn team that had weirdly started coming up short in these big moments, they proved this year. I mean, they blew UCLA off the face of the planet.
If you thought the South Carolina game wasn't close, the UCLA one was criminal.
Yeah,
that was not a fun watch.
You know, they just never let South Carolina get comfortable, and that's what UConn's been able to do.
Yeah, and you got to give South Carolina, I think Dawn Staley deserves a lot of credit for getting this team to the title game because, again, especially if you look at the most previous years, it's not as stacked of a team, or I don't think they were playing as well as teams of past years. So to be able to make the championship game is still an achievement. Again, we're spoiled as Gamecock fans that it seems like every year they don't win the title. It's like, oh, man, you know. But they still made it there. And, you know, it's great to see that the players that are departing all get to leave with a title under their belt, of course. So Sanaya Fagan, Tahina Paopao, and Bree Hall are the graduating seniors. But there's a couple new birdies that flew into the nest for South Carolina. Again, this team, they reload talent. Let's take a look at the 3 new players joining the team for next year.
And one of them is sticking out more so than the rest, Spencer, with, you know, Tanaya Latson from Florida State, Lacian's leading scorer.
Yeah, averaging over 25 points a game for Florida State. Again, 4.5 boards, 4.5 assists, 2 steals on 45% from the field. She was excellent for the Seminoles and led them to one of their better years in recent memory. And now she just comes and slots right in for South Carolina. But she's not alone as, again, South Carolina, they don't have a huge graduating class, but, you know, they're picking their spots well here as their 2 incoming freshmen are both, you know, 5-star recruits, McDonald's All-Americans. It's Agat Makir and Isla McDowell. And, I mean, these are 2 lanky kind of wings who can use their physicality down low but can also stretch the floor, which is something that South Carolina's been recruiting for a lot better recently. Yeah,
they have, and you know that was really the downfall of this current team was that, you know, they just couldn't rely on anybody to make shots. And so South Carolina is trying to fix that problem in spades. And I think they did. And they got, I mean, the portal is young, and we've seen a lot of movement already.
And they're already the projected #1 team for next year. They've got the best odds. And, you know, right after the title game, you know, for the men's and women's side, they dropped their top 25 for next season. So, again, it can mean absolutely nothing. But, you know, let's not pretend that South Carolina's just going to go away. You know, this is a dynasty for sure. And they're treating it as such.
Absolutely. But we're going to shift to the pros and look at who's secured playoff spots with just a handful of games left. It's the final week of the NBA regular season. Things wrap up this weekend. Starting in the West, you know, you have kind of a clear-cut top 2 with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. But then, man, oh man, the Lakers in 3rd, and then it's just 2 games separating them and the play-in. Spencer.
It feels wrong, but the Nuggets, the Clippers, are both at 48 and 32. And at 47 and 33 sit the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves. And all these teams are super quality, man. That's the difficult part about being in the West. It's not like where it's the bottom half of the Eastern Conference where it's not super competitive or not as competitive as it is in the West. I mean, again, these last 2 games matter a ton because you could find yourself in the play-in or you could find yourself in the playoffs and, you know, maybe hosting, you know, the first couple games. So it's very interesting how it's all shaken out. But in the East, again, there's a much more clear-cut order. It's the Cavs and the Celtics at the top, followed by the Knicks, the Pacers, and then the Bucks and the Pistons round out that top 6. And really, that's not going to change, it doesn't seem. Maybe a couple seeding changes because the Bucks and Pistons play each other a couple times before the season ends.
Yep.
But again, time will tell on that. But one of the most interesting stories of this time of year is JP. Mike Malone just got fired.
That was weird.
Less than, you know, just a handful of games left in the season. 2, I think, for the Nuggets. Mike Malone gets canned right before the playoffs in very interesting fashion. Again, this Nuggets team won a title just 2 seasons ago. Why'd they do this here?
Maybe it's something that had been building for quite some time. I mean, I think there was a rift between him and the general manager Calvin Booth, who's also been sent to the door.
Don't worry, it's not just Malone.
But Malone, one of the longest tenured coaches in the NBA, that makes it now just Pop, Spoelstra, and Kerr that have been with their teams for 10 years or more. And so it's just odd, and it's unfortunate.
I think the timing of it all is incredibly
it's
interesting.
needlessly humiliating for a coach who won you a title. And really, it's a factor of the new era of player empowerment, because he said it. These guys aren't bought in. They don't watch film. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
These guys don't care. So what do? They fire the guy who cares and continue to pamper losers like Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon, who have never won. Aaron Gordon won a title off the back of Jokic and all those guys who aren't there anymore. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they have not gotten any better in any tangible aspect of their game over the last couple of years because they stagnated. They just don't care. And in a world where those guys don't care, the NBA is trying to get people to care about the regular season. We're punishing the guys who do, like Michael Malone. I just don't get it. It bothers me greatly.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in the locker room, so I wouldn't say all that just because, like, you can't really tell how much guys care. I mean, you can see a lack of defensive I mean, I think Russ gets a lot of hate, and plainly put, he's been one of the better players on this team all season long. So I don't think you can just point the blame at one player. Not to say you can point the blame at Michael Malone. I think it's just a weird move. I don't know that it makes a ton of sense right at the end of the season. Why not wait until after and try and figure it out? Because frankly, the organization is just in a tough spot. I think that's more of what it is than anything. You don't have a good roster around one of the best players we've seen in the last century.
He's never had an all-star teammate, and it's frankly ridiculous. Which, I mean, it's partly on Booth for letting guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and other guys leave who were big parts of the nucleus of the Denver Nuggets. But, I mean, he's also just drafting hasn't really hit, other than Christian Braun, who's been very nice.
Well, they couldn't keep Bruce Brown. You don't keep KCP. It seems like your role players that were big roles in that title run, they all left, and now this defense is just kind of lackluster, and it's like, well, hopefully Jokic can score 60 in a triple-double, but they lose every time he scores more than 40. It's a truly weird situation, but of course David Adelman is the new interim head coach. They're 1-0 under him, so it's just a team to watch going into the playoffs, because I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out.
See how they land. They play the Grizzlies tonight at 9 p.m. in a big game for that Western Conference pecking order.
In the other team that fired their head coach
Taylor Jenkins.
So.
And the the T-Wolves beat the Grizzlies last night, and a lot of these teams play each other down the stretch. Of course, the Pistons and the Bucks play each other twice this weekend, Spencer. We'll see who comes out on top with that. Meanwhile, the Knicks, they're playing DeLon Wright 30 minutes. You may think that they're trying to jump down themselves to the 4 seed so that they can play the Cavs in the second round. We have I mean, the NBA is in an interesting spot, but you cannot deny that it has one of the best playoffs in sports, and it's going to be exciting to see it finally take hold, as we do have the play-in tournament starting next week with the official, the Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, and charity matchup.
Yeah, it happens every year for just one of those teams to get spanked by the 1 seed. But, it's got to happen. I understand, because especially if you look out west, those play-in teams are a lot better. It makes for a lot more fun.
DeMar DeRozan, Jonas Valanciunas have been, I think, in every play-in tournament ever of all time already.
You know what? Keep the streak alive, Kings.
But speaking of some of the best playoffs in sports, don't go anywhere, because we have the best playoffs in sports coming up with what the playoff field will look like in the NHL and some Gamecock and MLB coverage right after this commercial.
And in today's show, we've already spent some time on the hardwood, but things are heating up on the ice. Let's take a look at what are some potential postseason matchups. Again, these are subject to change, but with just about a week left in the season, JP, let's see what we got so far. JP, you want to start us out west?
Yeah, I will. This is what the season would look like if it ended today, with your number 1 team in all of the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets, taking on the St. Louis Blues in the first round. Then in that Central Division, you got the Dallas Stars against the Colorado Avalanche. Mikko Rantanen versus his old team in the first round.
Now all the Stars and the Hurricanes have to do is meet in the final. We could just have the Mikko off.
Or the Avalanche. I mean,
that's right.
Then out in the Pacific, you have the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild, and the LA Kings against the Edmonton Oilers for the 4th straight year.
Feels right.
It does. It does. The NHL playoff format, it breeds familiarity. And, we do have some unique matchups this year, at least out west, which is fun to see.
It sure is. And now looking at the Eastern Conference, again, your first round matchups would potentially, as of right now, be the Maple Leafs against the Ottawa Senators. And then again, those Atlantic 2 and 3 seeds. It's the Lightning versus the Panthers. Again, a little Florida off down there.
Keep them contained.
Yeah,
don't want to infect the rest of hockey.
But those have been, two of the better teams in hockey as of, I would say, the 2010s, 2020s.
Yeah.
They've certainly... No strangers to the playoff times. But again, one of the surprises of the season, it's the Washington Capitals. They would face off against the Canadiens, the second wildcard seed. And in the Metro, the 2 versus the 3, it's Canes versus Devils. JP, we're not going to get too into that because we'll get into it later. But again, those are your projected first-round matchups for right now. And there's about a week left, right, for all this to change?
Yeah, so most teams are sitting at around 3 games remaining. But... Washington clinched the number 1 seed in the East, so they'll have home ice advantage. Carolina clinched home ice advantage in the first round. Tampa Bay and Florida are separated by just 1 point. So the home ice on that could flip at any moment, and even Tampa could catch Toronto to win the division crown. Ottawa, they've clinched their playoff spot for the first time since 2017, which they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final that year. And then out west, none of the wild cards have clinched, and in fact, technically, the Edmonton Oilers could be caught by the Calgary Flames
that would be
one of those for one of those playoff spots. But those matchups aren't quite finalized yet. Now, as we take a look at the wild card race, and it's a lot different in the East and the West. In the West, you have Minnesota and St. Louis, who have 9-point advantages over Calgary, it's mostly just, if they won all the way out, and those teams lost out.
Because they play in the Pacific. So, they're chasing the Oilers, whereas the Wild and the Blues would need 100 points at the minimum to catch the Avalanche. And, those guys are putting together really good seasons. It's just
not enough.
That division in the West is rather stacked.
Exactly. And, it'll be fun to see Marc-Andre Fleury back in the playoffs with Minnesota. Minnesota's got a really fun team now as we kind of look over to the East. There's a big drop-off. I mean, Ottawa has had a great year. They've clinched a playoff spot. The Montreal Canadiens looking to clinch a playoff spot for the first time since they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2021. And then it's kind of if they completely fall apart, then someone could rise up from between Columbus, the Rangers, the biggest disappointment. Actually, the Nashville Predators aren't even here, so they're probably the biggest disappointment. The Red Wings have fallen off a cliff, and then the Islanders. If those teams got on a heater to end the year, I guess.
It would take them going on a crazy streak and then, those top 2 wildcard teams absolutely going pointless the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So it would be something. But, JP, we've talked about the standings. We talked about the wild card. But every time we talk hockey, we talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. Their first-round matchup is locked in. It will be them hosting the New Jersey Devils. Let's take a look at it, man.
And really, Carolina's best playoff rivalry since they moved to Raleigh. They met in 2001. The Devils won that series, but ever since, it's been all Carolina, winning 4 straight series against New Jersey, including dominating some of those great teams led by Martin Brodeur in the 2000s. They met most recently.
What a beast that guy was.
He was, all time.
Goodness.
They met most recently in 2023. You can see that picture I took in PNC where they absolutely clobbered the Devils. It's really kind of a matchup of styles. New Jersey is very offensively focused. They like to get out and go. They are number 3 in power play goals or power play percentage. They have one of the best offenses in the league. But Carolina, number 1 in the penalty kill, outstanding defense. New Jersey's actually better on the road this year than at home, but Carolina has an NHL best 38-1 record at home this year. They just get behind the Caniacs. And the Caniacs, Spencer, they got a little boost They got a little something extra to get excited about right before the playoffs, didn't they?
JP, I heard a comrade's coming over, brother.
Oh, yeah, the big red machine. Ivan. Not really. Alexander Nikishin. the top defenseman prospect in the National Hockey League, leaving the SKA, the official sport club of the Russian Army, to join the Carolina Hurricanes. He's going from one Red Army to the next. And, this guy is just unbelievable. He's led the KHL in points for his position the last several years. Most goals by a defenseman in the KHL. He's 23. He's been the captain of St. Petersburg for quite some time. Widely regarded as the best defenseman playing in not the NHL. And he just adds a total new dimension to this team.
Thank goodness for the Canes that they lost in the first round of the playoffs, because that bought them some time to probably get on a plane and head on over now. So again, that's a key addition. Whereas for the Devils, they've lost recently more than they've gained, as Hughes is going to be out, and potentially Dougie Hamilton, former Hurricane.
Yeah, Hamilton,
also slotted to be out.
He dealt with injury. I mean, it was like a week stretch where like every Devils player, for lack of a better term, had their soul reaped by the devil. I mean, Jack Hughes is the only one who's not fully coming back. And so they made the big offseason trade for Jacob Markstrom from Calgary. He's led them to a pretty good season, but he's had some playoff woes, and that's really the big thing for Carolina. Who's going to start in net for the Canes? Pyotr Kochetkov has been the starter for the majority of the season. He's put up a good year, 2.58 goals allowed average, a save percentage that's dipped below 900 lately. And get this, Spencer, in his last 20 games, he's 43rd in goals saved above expected. Just kind of going through a rough patch, and it's a bad time to do it. Meanwhile, Freddie Anderson, who's had the crease in the last several playoffs for Carolina, came back from that injury and has been nothing short of tremendous.
Yeah, and that's a really tough decision to make, because you've got your guy who's been there the whole year, who's now dipping at the end, and the guy who's been there in the playoffs recently, hasn't been great in the playoffs, is now playing well. It's like, it's tough. It's a really tough decision. Wouldn't surprise me if they kind of platoon it, at least try one or the other every couple games. But JP, for the Canes, where they've really struggled as of late, hasn't been the regular season, it's been the playoffs. Can they get over the hump? But it starts against the Devils, and
it should be.
It should be fun. We know one thing. There's
going to be blood on the ice. These two teams hate each other, and it should be. Like you said, it's going to be a fun one. But we're going to head over now to the Diamonds. Baseball has been awesome to start the year. Here are three teams who are punching above their preseason projections in Major League Baseball. We'll start, of course, with the Halos, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Unfortunately not, as they're in LA. But again, that's not too far apart. But they're 8-4 on the young season, second in the AL West, just behind the Red Hot Rangers. And they haven't lost a series yet. They've taken 2 of 3 of every team they've played.
That's a great winning formula.
Right now, they're led by a guy who we're going to get to a little later. Mr. Kyron Paris is having the bounce back of all bounce backs and is hitting the cover off the ball. But also, Logan O'Hoppy's been awesome. Mike Trout's hitting 5 home runs so far. Nolan Shanwell's been great. And weirdly enough, this team is getting good starts from guys who it kind of feels like a retirement home.
Yeah.
Kyle Hendricks and Kikuchi are putting together good starts. It's weird.
And the youngster, Jose Siriano, who has great stuff. He's he's got a sinker that touches triple digits. I mean, that's absurd. And he's always had the stuff. But this year, he's finally getting the results. He's got a 2.7 ERA in 20 innings so far with 18 strikeouts. But speaking of retirement home, Kenley Jansen got his 450th save the other day. For a division that really has no clear-cut favorite, you got to think if the Halos can keep chugging, it could be that.
They're keeping themselves in it, and especially in a time where the Astros don't look as good.
The Mariners
the A's can hit the ball, but they can't pitch, and the Mariners can do the exact opposite. The Angels are just putting together wins right now. They're fun to watch. Ron Washington, ultimate baseball dude.
Just a baseball dude. That's a great way to put it.
It's a really fun team. They're fun. The Angels are fun. They lost Shohei Ohtani and got more fun. It's unbelievable, but they're actually putting together competitive baseball. We didn't know the next time we'd see it, but we're seeing it right now, so tune in case it goes away. And moving on to our second team we want to highlight, JP, I know you may not want to highlight them, neither our producer Tyler, but the New York Mets are playing really good ball right now, and you can't argue that.
No, you can't. It's really been the pitching that's shocked the world. Kodai Senga has a 1.8 ERA, and Tyler McGill has a .63. They haven't allowed more than 5 runs in a game. They've just been nails, and of course we'll see how that holds up over the course of the season, but then you got...
That was the question mark, right?
Yeah.
It was like, well, they've got this ultimate lineup that can just mash, but their pitching... their opening day starter was Clay Holmes, who actually hasn't been that bad. You know, he's been all right.
He's the worst of the bunch with like a ERA above like 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's not bad, but to start the year as they have, pitching-wise, I think has been really promising. And Pete Alonso, this might be the best version of him we've ever seen so far.
Yeah, he had the weirdest offseason. You know, he was holding out for a lot of money, and then nobody wanted to pay him that, and he wanted to stay with the Mets. The Mets were like, well, you turned down $150 million. So either, take a massive pay cut from that or hit the road, Jack. And he took a pretty small deal for just 2 years, and he's
probably going to earn himself that back if he continues this form. So far, a .333 average, 3 home runs, and right now, a .208 WRC plus is his projection. That's pretty good. We're going to call that pretty good. That's double league average. So.
And our third team, looking here, it's the San Francisco Giants. And this is a team I was pretty high on going into the year. Logan Webb has been really great. Their bullpen has been awesome. The real shocker is that Justin Verlander has struggled. You kind of thought bringing him in to replace Blake Snell
some consistency,
would have added something there. But they have swept the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. Jung-Ho Lee didn't play really at all, I think, last year.
He struggled some,
dealt
then
with
was
injuries.
injured. Yeah.
He's doing awesome. Mike Yastrzemski and Wilmer Flores have been great as well. Helio Ramos. They have a great core to build off of. General Manager Buster Posey, you're going to feel old now, is really doing some good
he's
work
like
here.
30 and already a GM. But again, the Giants really kind of out of nowhere in what is, I would say, pretty easily the toughest division in baseball. It's that or the AL East. Or the NL East deserves a shout as well. But again, the Giants playing great ball, 9-3. They just lost their first series to the Reds, but it was a really close one. In one of those games, Hunter Green went 8 2/3 innings without giving up a run.
Yeah.
So it's tough to bounce back from that. But the offense has been hitting. The pitchers have been great. And those are the 3 teams we wanted to highlight. But now let's highlight 3 players who are red hot to start the year. Again, we told you we'd bring him back up. Kyron Paris, in just about 40 plate appearances, his average is up 275 points from last year. He's slugging 1,000. He's got an OPS of 1.485, and it came out of nowhere. I'm stuttering over here because I don't know how to put it into words. JP, this guy batted 118 last year.
He's just hitting the ball hard.
He's hitting the ball hard.
He's barreling up. He's getting it to the best part of the bat. Without fail, 98th percentile in barrel percentage. He's hitting the ball very hard too. It's just awesome, and when you hit the ball hard, it's not like he's outperforming expectations too much. So it's really just kind of, hey, he's actually underperforming his ex-Woba.
Yeah, and he's a speedster as well, which is it's a weird blend of this power guy, but once he's on base, he's running. He's got 4 bags on the year. He doesn't strike out that much. He only has 7 strikeouts through about 15 games or 12 games so far. He's been awesome to watch, but another guy who's been absolutely raking, it's the former Astros so far. Bregman, Kyle Tucker, and Wilyer Abreu have just...
And he's flashed the leather, too, a lot.
That's right.
I mean, everyone's seen that outfield assist where he literally, threw his entire body to throw the ball. But
I love when players do that, man. You end up somersaulting just to cannon the ball.
He's been part of a Red Sox team that's really started the year off very well. And he just doesn't chase, He's not offering up when opponents are trying to get him to swing and miss at stuff. And it's been very good for him. And for the Red Sox, they're staying right there in that AL East that we mentioned is just routinely one of the best divisions in all of baseball.
Yeah, and he really found the power early. He hasn't hit a home run as of late, but especially when Rafael Devers was struggling. He's been a lot better since those first couple series.
Absolutely.
But again, he kind of bridged the gap there for everyone else to step up.
He did. Sorry, I was being silly because I'm just excited to talk about this next guy who's been around for a while as a prospect. He's finally getting his time to shine, and it's Tyler Soderstrom of the Oakland A's. 6 home runs, tied for first in the American League.
Got bad news for you.
Nope, they're still the Oakland A's. 10 RBI, a .354 batting average, and he's part of a lineup with him, Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, a lot of guys with talent. It's a minor league ballpark, and really,
Big Fly City out there, man. They are launching bombs.
They are a team that has a decent quotient for fun if you just ignore the absolute horror show they did to the city of Oakland, which really sucks because that just takes the shine off.
Unfortunately, what every professional sports team did to the city of Oakland.
Yeah.
It's not just the A's, the Warriors, the Raiders. They're all gone. It feels wrong. But again, at least they're putting together a pretty fun ball club in Sacramento. Soderstrom's a big part of that, but it's a really fun lineup. Maybe don't look too hard into their pitching.
Yeah,
but
especially in a minor league park. It might not hold up very well. They're going to have to win some shootouts.
The Cubs went out there and, we saw them hang 18 on them one game, and that was pretty cool for me, but not for A's fans.
No, and speaking of having to win in shootouts, what has been the opposite of red hot, Gamecock baseball season is in a tailspin akin to things such as the Hindenburg. And
that's
frankly,
not good company, JP.
No, you just don't want to see it. And to quote Alice in Chains, they've come to snuff the rooster.
And it hasn't been too hard, man.
No, it hasn't. They lost 2 of 3 in Stark Vegas last weekend. They won the opener and then just got absolutely slobber knocked in the final 2 games.
And usually Mississippi State is a really good team.
They're another team that's they've had these opportunities, and they run ruled the USC Upstate 13-3 in Founders on Tuesday. But
that was cool.
Yeah, they're tied for 14th in the SEC with the Florida Gators. The only team that's doing worse than them is the 0-13 Missouri Tigers, who are just, hardly even a baseball team at this point.
Yeah, and, kind of the big storyline the rest of the way is, can Ethan Petrie break the South Carolina home run record? He's only 8 away from Justin Smoke's career record, but watching that is a lot more fun than watching, this team put together games because, frankly, right now, JP, they just can't string anything together. They had a chance last night, but they fell in Game 1 in College Station against the Aggies. They've got to try and win both to try to take their first conference series win. They haven't done it yet, and it's really tough, man. I know the SEC is tough, but
these aren't good teams. Texas A&M, when you look at them here now, 18-15 on the year. Mississippi State was right there in the cellar with you last weekend. The Florida Gator, it's an SEC that has a kind of an unprecedented amount of not great squads because even for A&M, preseason #1 team in the country,
fell off a cliff.
They were 14-15. They're actually on a 4-game winning streak right now, which included sweeping a doubleheader to take the series against #1 Tennessee last weekend, and they won in their midweek. Now they have beaten Carolina in Game 1. Carolina took a 3-1 lead. Then A&M jumped all over Jake McCoy, took a big lead, and then when South Carolina fought back, well, the Aggies ended it in the 10th inning with a just heartbreaking home run off the bat of, if I can find it, Caden Sorrell hit a solo home run to win things. Jace Laviolette and Ethan Petrie, 2 very kind of similar ball players.
Good prospects as well.
Great prospects. They can hit the long ball. And it's really kind of the only reason to watch these teams is the pitching. Well, the pitching, I shouldn't say that. That's unnecessarily mean to A&M, as their pitching is actually good. Their starting pitcher today has a 3.66 ERA, a 51-11 strikeout to walk ratio. Spencer, Justin Lampkin, both starters for A&M the rest of the way this series are both lefties.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how South Carolina can battle that. But again, another thing that has struck South Carolina year after year, and you wonder if something's up. The injury bug, man. It's, where's Dylan Eskew? Eli Jerzenbeck's out for the year again. It's like you can't even get your best pitchers on the mound. And it's really frustrating stuff because
if you don't have a dude who can go up there and give you 6-7 innings every Friday night, then you don't have a place in the NCAA tournament in college baseball.
And you got to feel bad for Jake McCoy, who's like a young guy who's really he started as the Sunday starter this year. Already moved up to Friday. Becker's been back and forth between the bullpen. Now he
never a good sign. Which now he's your Saturday guy.
It is because he has
technically
to.
Friday's
He
guy.
Unfortunately has to be. it's just kind of a sad state of affairs for South Carolina baseball. And really, you just want to see them get back to usual. It might not happen this year, but you got a chance to build upon something. And you've got a great head coach. You just got to start putting together pieces. And you got to find a way to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to just find a way to start stringing together some wins. You got 2 more games in College Station against the struggling Aggies. You got a midweek against the Citadel, a team from the SoCon. You should have handled business there. You're currently not in anywhere's, a stone's throw of the NCAA tournament. But if you just start winning games in the SEC, you can turn that around.
You need to win some series, but they have chances.
They do have chances. Right. Someone who's not going to have to sweat it out on Selection Sunday, however, sticking on the diamond, Gamecock softball just keeps racking up the series wins against ranked competition, most recently against Ole Miss. And then they got a nice midweek run rule victory over Charleston Southern.
And this team is awesome. I mean, they just beat the cover off the ball. They really are excellent pitching-wise. That Ole Miss score series was very low scoring. But the pitching, it's what held them together. Sam Gress had an outstanding series. She was named one of 4 Softball America Stars of the Week. This team jumped up to first in RPI. They jumped Texas, who's the #1 team in the country. But it's not just one player, pitcher or hitter, that gets it done. Everyone chips in. These are 3 players I'd like to highlight from this past series, especially Carly Shelton went 3 for 3 in Sunday's game in a huge rubber match to take the series against Ole Miss. Lexi Winters drove in an RBI double off the top of the wall and left.
Yeah.
That would have been a cool grand slam to call, but, robbed by just about a foot. But again, she was awesome. And again, Sam Gress lowered her ERA almost a full point over the weekend. She threw 7 2/3 shutout on Friday night. She is awesome.
I had the pleasure of being on the horn for that Friday night game that went into extra innings with a walk-off walk. If that tells you anything. It's the 7th straight ranked series coming up for the Gamecocks here as they travel to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. If they win this series, they're putting themselves over 500 in conference play, and you got to think they start to finally climb up those polls. But they've kind of stayed put at number 10 for some reason.
They range between 6 and 11 in the various polls, but the number 10 is what they are in the USA Today poll, which is what they use. And again, it's unfortunate because they're winning the games. I'm like, someone move these guys up. I mean, they're awesome. But
they also, they got a big midweek coming up in the upstate after this Arkansas game.
They've got to head to Clemson. But first, let's talk about Arkansas just briefly, because they've got one of the best hitters in the country. It's all about Bree Ellis. Let me just read you some of her stats real quick. She bats .511, which is 3rd in the nation. You think .511? Well, she might be a slap hitter. Just an on-base, infield singles, poke it to the outfield. No, she has 20 home runs, which is 1st in the nation. She's slugging 1,200. She's 59 RBI, 36 walks, and a .644 on-base percentage, which is 3rd in the nation. JP,
well, you got to work. I mean, you got to give her the. Hey, as soon as she walks up to the plate, you go
the 4. Take your base, get out of my sight.
You know what? Get the first. We'll deal with whoever else, because otherwise, over half the time she's going to end up hitting the ball, and
she's going to be on base anyway. So you may as well cut out the middleman, save your starting pitchers. Some pitches we've seen some outstanding at-bats lately in these Gamecock games where they're just extending counts, and that's what South Carolina's going to have to do against Robin Herron, the ace for this Arkansas staff. 2.09 ERA on the campaign, 100 strikeouts, and 83 2/3 inning. Her one Achilles heel, 43 walks on the season.
In South Carolina, one of the best teams at drawing walks. They're 6th in the country.
We saw that.
They had 10 walks on Friday against Ole Miss, and again, that's how they won the game 1-0. Walked in the game-winning run, and you know what? You'll take that, especially if it's being offered. It was really interesting. We got an email from the SID, our friend Brian with Gamecock Softball, and he gives you the stat leaders for everything. And the only 2 names listed for Arkansas were Bree Ellis and Robin Aaron in the hitting and pitching stats. It's a 2-man show down there for Arkansas. South Carolina's got to have an answer for both of them. And we'll see if they do, but stick with us here. We'll be right back after a quick break to talk about our Pick'ems history and wrap up another episode of Ball Don't Lie.
Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie Pick'ems. As Game 3 of last weekend's Braves-Marlins series has been postponed until August 9th. Therefore, the series will not count towards our records. However, last night, we looked like we were going to have another Game 3 postponed. Marcell Ozuna hit a walk-off home run at like 1 a.m. It was pretty sick.
It's pretty cool the Braves won a series.
They did?
I mean, good.
Yeah.
Hey, good for you, man. And with that said, what we are picking today, JP?
Unfortunately, nothing. There's nothing. There's no sports
Not a
really
thing.
going on yet. Playoffs haven't started in the NBA and the NHL. And, well, yeah.
That's it. It's going to be the end of Pick'ems today, which is sad but sweet moment. But we are going to look at our total record. Again, JP, I didn't realize it. We might be kind of good at this thing.
We are, hey, if anything else, we know ball.
It's
and,
true.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of our favorite picks as
Drum roll, please.
after last week.
No, if that's
and
loud
4
enough.
total seasons of Ball Don't Lie Pick'ems.
Wait, 5 seasons. 5. It's 5 seasons.
No, of Pick'ems.
Oh, we only did. We didn't do season 1 Pick'ems. I lied.
Aha! Smite him from the record. Anyway.
Nope, I win.
I finished with a
Spoiler.
grand total of 206 wins and 406 losses.
What?
146.
Oh my God.
I can't read.
JP picked every game.
We get to the end of Ball Don't Lie, and JP becomes illiterate. Spencer ends with a 218 and 134 record. We are pretty good at this, huh?
Only 12 games separate us. We both finished with a winning record. And frankly,
What was your favorite pick? Other than some of the Michigan ones were pretty
hating
awesome.
Michigan has probably been one of my finest moments in life. That's pretty fun. We used to have some good segments. We broke the U a couple times.
Yeah,
over
breaking the
knee.
U.
That was pretty
when we
good.
would do it out there, that was good.
Yeah, we used to unlock cool new locations, but now we're old and we like to sit in our chairs.
Travis Hunter, leader of men. The Lord of the Rings bit was really
Wait,
good.
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, we've been doing this for so long. We get names, numbers,
Yeah.
all sorts of things switched up. But
I've cut some hellacious promos for
It's-
Notre Dame football.
it has.
The Notre Dame Southern Cal one might be the
yeah.
greatest when we.
Well, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That's a
That
classic.
after the Ohio State one was brutal. But yeah. I mean, when I spurred the boys to crushing Caleb Williams on national television, that was pretty awesome.
It happened. I actually heard that they were plugging this into Notre Dame's locker room. It's true.
It's true.
They pulled
The
this
Four
up.
Horsemen one before the Notre Dame Army game.
That was cool.
I liked that one a lot.
was
I mean,
cool.
we've done some. We've had some great moments where we picked. Mizzou.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were a friend of the show. And
They were a friend of the show, and they beat South Carolina every year. Before
Except for
this
last
one.
year. Yep, it was awesome.
That was cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, a big UNLV fan.
Yeah, UNLV.
It's-
Ashton GT.
We've had a lot of good moments, but JP, I think we haven't quite constructed our layout for the final episode of Ball Don't Lie.
We don't know quite what-
Movie also coming soon. 5 seasons and a movie, of course.
Semicolon movie for movie theaters and
Cinema
motion picture
film.
films.
Cinema
yeah.
film coming soon. A cover album as well. We've
It's
got
true.
all sorts of things coming. But
We're never letting this die.
we might include some of our favorite. We might have a favorite moments pick'em section next week.
We might do that.
But
don't worry, we'll talk about some sports. We'll have the NHL and
course.
NBA playoff fields. We'll talk about that.
yeah,
But-
that's all we do is talk about sports. We're not going
Yeah.
to just come up here and ramble like we are now. That's going to do it for this episode of Ball Don't Lie. Again, we've got one more for you. Tune in next week for what will be the final episode of Ball Don't Lie, as it stands.
On SGTV platforms,
That's
at the
right.
very least.
We're not done
It
just
may
yet.
go, hey, we'll meet again some sunny day.
You know that's right.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at SGTV at USC. To keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtv@usc.com. For SGTV, I'm JP Barry.
And I'm Spencer Ball. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great weekend, Carolina.
Forever to thee.
thee.